Sonic fan games are for the most part perfectly fine, and that's not me saying that, it's Sega themselves. Here's the social media manager of Sonic the Hedgehog confirming what I just said.
So long as no profit is involved, there is usually no issue with y'all using our Blue Boy to hone your art and dev skills. For legal reasons, I can't promise all content is okay.
And with that, the entire Sonic fandom just rejoiced because that was an awesome statement to make. And to be quite honest, who's going to stop them anyway? I mean, come on, there are so many Sonic fan games to choose from that by this point Sega couldn't stop it if they wanted to. Where other companies take down fan projects that get too popular, including Sega themselves. Yep, they took down the best Streets of Rage fan game ever made, but strangely enough, when it comes to Sonic, all is a-okay. The company's most important IP gets the green light simply because the Sonic fan game community is just way too big for Sega to ever want to pull that plug. That is unless money is involved. Oh my god, I didn't time that. My god.
I wanna take.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we'll be looking at the most controversial Sonic fan game ever created.
Well, actually, no. The most controversial was Sonic Eclipse, an unlicensed Roblox game that was not only making money off the Sonic IP, but also had a dev that was eventually arrested for suggesting a minor.
Okay then. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we'll be looking at the second most controversial Sonic fan game ever created. Today we'll be looking at Sonic Omens. Welcome to Slope's Game Room. And before going ahead, why not check out Instant Gaming, where you can pick up multiple Sonic games for PC, Xbox, Nintendo and PlayStation 4, all with huge discounts ranging from a couple of quid for some of the, quite frankly, best in the series, and a little more for newer titles, again with huge discounts. In fact, no matter what you buy, if you use the link below and get games like, for instance, Elden Ring Night Rain for 22% off, Expedition 33 for 42% off, Stellar Blade for 27% off, or personal favourite, Capcom Fighting Collection 2 for 31% off, then you'll be supporting the show. Instant Gaming have been a huge help during the channel's recent trouble, so please do go get yourself some cheap games and support the show at the same time. So firstly, what is Sonic Omens and why was it so controversial? Is it because it was making money? Well, yes, but it was so much more than that. In fact, the rabbit hole of controversies go quite deep with this one, and even though there are elements that I am pretty sure we can all agree are absolutely horrendous, this one isn't going to be as cut and dry as most of my videos. Some people may even leave this video thinking that it's all been blown out of proportion and not worthy of the hate. And you know what? Even though I don't agree, I do understand. As usual on Kick Scammers, when covering something as diverse as this, the only way to get to the bottom of this and for you guys to make up your own mind is to go through the entire thing in a timelined manner. We're going to be going back before the game was called Sonic Omens, back to the 14th of February 2020 when the first trailer dropped. Now, what you will notice straight away about this Sonic fan game is that, well, simply, it looks solid as all hell. For people that like 3D Sonic games, that is. You'll also notice that the game is called Sonic 2020, and yes, that is indeed Ori and the Blind Forest music in the background. Now, Ori and the Blind Forest is one of my all-time favourite games, easily a top 10 game of all time for me, and I'm guessing that Bolt, the main guy behind this project, thinks so too, as he'd been tweeting about Ori and the Blind Forest for the longest time to try and win plushies and stuff. It's a bit strange that this music is in a Sonic trailer. But hey, it's an incredibly powerful and atmospheric score, and I suppose that's what Bolt was kinda going for. Regardless, this first episode of this new Sonic fan game was available right then and there over on Game Jolt, and even though this first episode is no longer available in its original form, you got plenty of playthroughs that show people impressed with the game in its mostly playable but fairly glitchy form.
I am a master of all things Sonic. That is why I will not let it get to me.
Keeping on with Bolt's Twitter, we see storyboards for the fan game showing that this project goes above and beyond the usual Sonic fan game, most of which never even get finished. And then Bolty Boy shares that the follow-up episode, Shadow of Water, will be coming on Twitter and includes a link to his Patreon asking for support. Now, this is where we reach that grey area. Should the creators of this fan game really be asking for money to make a game full of IP that obviously they don't own? Yes? No? What makes this project different than someone charging for an animation or a drawing of an IP that they don't own? Is Bolt even asking for money for this Sonic fan game specifically? We're less than 5 minutes into this video and already I've no doubt split my audience right down the middle. Should he really be asking for money? Is he even asking for money in the first place? Well, let me help you. If we use the Wayback Machine on Bolt's Patreon page, we can see that it is definitely set up as a way to earn money for this project in particular, as the About section reads that he is currently developing a game in the Infinity Engine, which, in case you didn't know, is a fan-made free Sonic game engine made in Unreal specifically designed to be used to make Sonic games. Also, let's not forget that for $5 you could gain access to the beta levels of this game. Now, have another look at the wording they use here. He's creating this in his free time, so you're not really paying for the project itself, apparently. I mean, the tweet would have you believe so, but the Patreon, well, that's a bit more up for debate. That is until you realise that the vast majority of posts given to backers were indeed Sonic 2020 related. Look, if you ask me, this is 100% putting the game behind a paywall, and this very, very much upset the Sonic fan game community. Not because the higher class paying folk were getting something that the non-paying peasants wanted for free, but because Sega was so chill with Sonic fan games up to this point, and when a project this big is so blatantly using the IP to make money without Sega's permission, it puts the entire fan game community in jeopardy. Either way, for all of the hate they were also getting plenty of support too. And because of this, Bolt shares that Sonic 2020 will eventually feature 7 episodes in total, with each episode including 2 to 3 game actions. We get to see some new abilities for Shadow in March of 2020, and rightfully so, those Sonic fans are extremely happy with what they were seeing.
Shut up and take my money!
For this, we have Patreon.
Ah, Patreon, you say? Good to know, Bolt. Good to know. You got plenty more footage of the upcoming Shadow segments dropping over the next month, including the announcement of Shadow's not so great voice actor. And look, here's a little clip from the future on what he sounds like.
This time, the doctor has bitten off more than he can chew. He's even managed to get to Juan's bedside. Juan's bedside. Juan's bedside. Juan's bedside.
And then you got some Ori and the Blind Forest gushing, of course. Look, before we go ahead here, let's just pump the brakes a little bit, because the not so great, sorry, it isn't that great Shadow voice acting by Humanarian wasn't the original choice. That job originally fell to one actor who I did speak to but would prefer to stay nameless from this video, and that actor sounded like this.
Enemies incoming. You can't let the data get destroyed.
Now, turns out the real reason this voice actor was changed was because the nameless actor, who was providing their services for free, I'd like to add, needed a new microphone. They ordered said microphone and informed Bolt that it was on its way, but by the time the microphone arrived, a couple of days later, Bolt had already replaced them without telling them. Again, for a voice actor that sounded like this.
Remind me, wasn't it Juan and your friend that stopped Eggman when you could not?
And as for Eggman's voice actor, that went to the YouTuber Samochkin. Well, I think that's how you say that. I don't know.
The exiled saw Thorndyke's life work destroyed and wanted nothing to do with Juan any longer.
Gun. Gun.
Juan.
Now, Samochkin, who had put out a negative review of the game, which resulted in the team contacting him and giving him a job. Shortly after his negative review was removed from YouTube for a positive one, although his playthrough still suggested that he actually hated the game deep down.
Ребята, охуенный босс!
Врешь? Отличный донат вовремя.
Да блять, заебало, все, я не могу больше. Все, хватит.
Ебать, он лох.
And yes, those people laughing at him losing his mind are the team behind the game. Not a great look, is it? And something that honestly doesn't make much of any sense. As on April 30th, 2020, it was eventually confirmed that the Shadow episode was going to be delayed until May/June. Now, one thing worth bringing up here before moving on is that Bolt had named his studio working on this game, or team if you prefer, Mania Team, which was obviously ripped from the oh so popular Sonic Mania released a few years prior. Which of course itself was largely made up by Sonic fan game creators that Sega had hired to make the best game the franchise has got in the last several decades. Yes, and I still stand by that. Anyway, moving on, turns out his Mania team was starting to expand, as Bolt goes to Twitter to look for a new 2D artist and an extra musician, as on the 31st of May we got the announcement that Techno Cinema had joined the team. 1 week to go until the release of the Shadow of Water episode, which it eventually does drop after a brand new trailer finds its way onto YouTube, and yes, that is still Ori and the Blind Forest music. And as for the reviews of this follow-up, well, they weren't actually as bad as before. Not only has the Mania team improved, but they've gone back to the first episode and made a few improvements with that too. Still, I say improve, but only barely.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is, oh my god. I can't even, oh my, whoa. I did it. Oh, look, I did it. I hit him.
Either way, with all that said, the game still looks significantly better than the majority of fan games out there, so you have got to give them that. Yeah, but no, because none of that mattered, as the majority of Sonic fan game creators, it seems, were still unhappy that the game was using Patreon to, in their eyes, directly earn money from something that the Mania team didn't own, and started to flood the team's newly created official Discord for the game to warn others of their wrongdoings. And one of those individuals was an individual known as Pancho. Individually. I'll let you pause the screen and look at all of this if you fancy. However, let's pump the brakes once again, shall we? And take another closer look at that Patreon page. As stated, originally the game did advertise Sonic 2020. There's absolutely no disputing that. But by this point it was playing it much safer and not advertising the 2020 game on the front page. By this point, Sonic 2020 was replaced with personal projects that were not tied to another IP, but of course, 2020 was still the main draw for, dare I say, all of the backers that knew about this. Look, let's not kid ourselves, no one was going to this Patreon and signing up for anything other than Sonic. Fans saw what was going on in socials or on Discord and were rightfully very excited with what the Mania team was trying to do here. So even though the Patreon page didn't advertise Sonic specifically, fans knew what they were getting when they signed up, thanks to the advertising on social media and obviously over on Discord. Oh, and if you want more proof of that Sonic and Patreon connection, turns out that this wasn't the first time this had happened. Dragons of the Edge was another Patreon and Boosty page. Boosty is essentially Russian's answer to Patreon for those that don't know. Not specifically set up by the Mania Team this time, but did include multiple members. And yes, surprisingly, call the obvious police, but they didn't own the How to Train Your Dragon IP either. In the words of the late Chester Bennington, everything you say to me takes me one step Dragons of the Edge and I'm about to break, because this How to Train Your Dragon fan game was absolutely not trying to hide what they were doing here. I think that's what he said, didn't he? Shut up! Well, okay then. They didn't say the words How to Train Your Dragon specifically, but they are ballsy enough to use the abbreviation. Honestly, there's very little else to say about this. It looks as if the game never even came to be, and the last updates on both the crowdfunding pages and the official YouTube channel all show that nothing new has been publicly shared since 2022. Oh, and before moving on, here's yet another way that the Sonic Mania team, the Mania team was still making money off the back of this game. Game Jolt, the website that was hosting the episodic games, included the option for its creators to show ads.
Only do this if you don't want your game monetized, or if your game is subject to a license that doesn't allow monetization.
Yeah, they had that switched on. Anyway, continuing on with the timeline. Danny at Techno Cinema starts uploading his tracks for the game onto YouTube, and the response is very positive. All the cutscenes, which I gotta admit again looked fantastic, get uploaded by Bolt. According to the growing number of followers not happy with this crowdfunder, it's reported that the Patreon setup for Sonic 2020 has earned somewhere between $1,200 and $1,400 up to this point. We get to see Bolt's undying love for Ori continue on. And then the Hedgehog crap really hits the fan as Bolt sends out a tweet letting everyone know that a raid has occurred on his Discord, and because of this, Sonic 2020 is now officially cancelled.
3 months during long nights between my primary job days, I worked hard as I can on Sonic 2020 music, but because some angry Twitter pussies can't check actual information, whole project got undeserved troubles, including me.
That was John Rise, someone else who was working on the soundtrack of the game, and look, there's plenty to poke fun at and more than enough reasons not to like what these guys are doing, but keep in mind that English isn't the first language for most people working on Sonic 2020. I just sees it as I sees it. Tensions were high as Bolt went to Twitter and started kicking off at anybody that ever brought up the fact that the game was behind a paywall. Even in the early days, it was definitely behind a paywall. He was not a happy chappy.
Show me the proofs that we are still posting test builds.
Proof? You want proof? Okay then. Actually, give it time. I'll give it to you.
If you want some, I'll give it you.
We then get some more Ori devotion, followed by a cryptic tweet teasing the possible return of the project. That didn't take too long, did it? No, because that's exactly what happened. It took just over a month for the game to make its official return with a brand new trailer, this time headed by a new studio called Aurora Borealis? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Oh, good. And for all you people out there wondering who the hell Ouroboros Studios are, the description reads:
the former Mania Team has been disbanded along with the community server.
So, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm reading this wrong, it's nothing more than a name change. It's the same people. It's the same team. It's the same game. The only thing different is that now it has a stupid name. That's it, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, that's that then. And the top comment also reads that the studio will be working on some solo projects too. And on top of all of this, we won't be getting one new entry, but we'll be getting two. One is going to be called The Breakthrough and the other is called Temple of Sands, both of which will be coming in the first quarter of 2021. Oh my god, I've just realised This is Ori music again, isn't it? Actually, no, it's not. This theme tune was created by Techno Cinema, and you can go over to his Bandcamp page and download it yourself for free. Although I'm sure we can all agree that this has just a little bit more than a hint of Ori and the Blind Forest music, doesn't it? In fact, I did briefly speak with Techno Cinema, who confirmed that yes, he was asked to make music that sounded like Ori and the Blind Forest. Back over on Twitter, a request for more 3D animators and level designers is put up by Bolt, and it's confirmed that Nicholas D. Markgraf will be voicing Sonic with a pretty decent preview showing it off.
Come on, let's go, Tails. I think it's time we made a visit to our mustache.
John Rice's soundtrack for The Shadow of Water is released. It's now believed that the Patreon has earned $5,632 up to this point. Again, at least partially for a fan game. Completely for a fan game. And as we move into 2021, the year starts off with some pretty decent previews of what is to come. And yes, some of those clips indeed include Ori and the Blind Forest music, because of course it did. Okay, whatever. As we move into May, we finally got to see the official trailer and were able to download episodes of The Breakthrough and The Temple of Sands. But more importantly, this was also the day that we got to see the game change its name from Sonic 2020 to Sonic Omens. And as great as the game looked, and look, let me just say, for the record, it does look incredible for a non-profit or for a fan game. It looks insanely good. It was still getting so much backlash from the fan game community because they saw it as a Patreon funded game. But by this point, was it really still a Patreon funded game? Yes. Don't worry, that's the last time I'll use that. As it was about the same time that screenshots started circulating of the official Patreon page, which included a specific goal to create episodes for Sonic Omen, and if you were one of the naysayers that brought this up in the Discord, you would be forcibly removed from said server. The rest of 2021 was just more of the same, with a few exceptions. At the end of May, John Rise releases one of the tracks from the game on his YouTube channel, which is a pretty standard thing for these musicians to do. The only problem was, it was eventually discovered that the track may have just been stolen. Now, I can't play the song here, as there's a bit of a crying to the YouTube copyright thing going on, which is a bit of a surprise, as he hasn't given any credit to Chuck E. Myers, who created the song Oil Rig Race, which sounds, according to some, almost identical to his song. And for you wondering, that Oil Rig Race track, that was taken from Cars 2, the video game. To this day, both songs are swarming with fans in the comment sections obsessed with this whole debate, chiming in and giving their 2 cents as to whether John ripped off the Disney soundtrack or not. And after speaking to a few composers myself, I'm torn. I'm not 100% sure he did take from the Disney game, but there's plenty of people out there that do, so obviously I had to add it to this video. I'm going to let you guys come to your own conclusion. There's a video down in the description, go check it out yourself, come back and let me know in the comment section what you think. In June, we got to see the official Sonic Omens website get launched, and credit where credit is due, there were no links to the company's Patreon page. This helps boost the numbers of the downloads, which Bolt is extremely happy about as he goes ahead and posts his information all over the internet. Keep in mind, these are just downloads via Game Jolt and doesn't include Google Drive downloads, so fair play to him. The entire Techno Cinema Sonic Omens OST gets released on Spotify, iTunes and Amazon, and as the year comes to a close, we finally get to see teasers for the final 3 chapters that would complete the Omen story, which is set to be released in 2022. But before moving on, at the beginning of November, one of the quote-unquote haters got hold of the Twitter handle @Sonic Omens and turned it into a blog of sorts, posting misinformation about the troubled game in a trolley-like fashion, which they were now calling Sonic Omens. As an example, fake concept art would be posted that claimed that the game was getting redesigned with all characters now wearing dresses and skirts. It's actually brilliant, and it's so typical of projects like this having a hardcore group of people very anti projects like this. Which now brings us to 2022 and plenty more teasers for the upcoming trilogy of episodes. And heck, we even get to see the more hardcore fans out there get the game working on the Steam Deck, which to be fair is a pretty damn impressive thing to do. Meanwhile, over on VK, Russian's answer to Twitter, we get to see teasers of the game being dubbed for Russian speakers. But far more interestingly than that, on the company's own VK page, they announced that yet another Patreon-like crowdfunding campaign will be used in that region called Boosty. Again, primarily aimed at Russians. And if you look at the post, it's hard to see this as anything other than a promotion for Sonic Omens. Take note of the date, by the way. March 27th. I decided to scroll all the way back on the company's VK page, and oh look, turns out that they thought it promoted Sonic too much too, as they decided to delete this post at some point. Don't you just love it when people who have nothing to hide delete stuff? Regardless, virtually every single tweet or whatever VK users call a post talking about Sonic Omens would include a link to the Boosty account. How these guys have the balls to say that this game wasn't behind a paywall is beyond me, as they are far more on the nose with this via that Russian VK account, and they continue to promote the Boosty page by offering unseen to the public eye screenshots for paying customers. Bolt puts out a tweet confirming that Sonic Omens is currently the most popular Sonic fan game on GameJolt. Of course, the same tweet was put on VK with a link to the Boosty page. In May, Bolt releases a video update stating that the game will need to be pushed back to the tentative release date of August 21st and showed off some gameplay footage with Shadow. And in a sign of goodwill, after giving bans to anybody who ever talked bad about their game, Ouroboros decided to do a mass unbanned session, allowing people that were banned between June 2021 and February 2022 to come back. We hope to no longer see you on our community blacklist. In June, a challenge is set up to try and push a movable chair asset across the finish line of the game. This doesn't last that long at all. I couldn't find one other person to ever do this. And gaining more exposure on the game, an article drops where Jay Costello of Fanbyte talks about the negative impact fan games have when people compare the newly released Sonic Frontiers footage with 3D Sonic fan games. And as the floating grind rails and open world look of Frontiers gets ridiculed more and more in its early days, the comparison to Omens starts to come back thick and fast.
Okay, you need to stop putting Sonic Omens as a blueprint for Sonic games. That game is so mediocre.
I'ma need people to stop sucking Omens. That game plays like ass.
And then, in August, the final set of 3 games were released. And of course, going over to VK, you had a link to the Boosty page, because of course you did. So, what's it like? Well, it's about as good as you would expect. If you look past the insane amounts of glitches and overly poor level design and replaced it with excitement for the game's visuals and music design, then you're gonna have a good time. For everybody else, it was the same old game once again. A stupidly frustrating game that was a real chore to play through. Believe me, I tried. Yes, let's do this. New game of Sonic Omens. So this is version 3.2.0, which is the very latest as of the recording of this. Alright, okay. I mean, I'll say it looks pretty good, straight up. It's not that bad, I've got to say. I mean, it's admirable what they've been able to do here. And this is a fan game. It's quite impressive.
1 hour later.
Oh my god! This is horrible. What? Where do I go? Where are you coming from? This sucks. This sucks. It's so horrible. Like, when it goes up, I don't know what's gonna... Where the f do I go? Look at that. Look at that for a screenshot. There is just literally hoops everywhere. No, no. This started off so good, this game. No, 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 no. Get over. Get over. This game sucks. I like the music. It's not quite the level that you would expect from a AAA game, but it is a fan game at the end of the day, and it's probably one of the best soundtracks. What even hurt me? What is going on with these rocks? What's hurting me? I think it's best just to aim for these. Oh no! My God! No! Like, what is happening? This is absolutely horrendous. Let me know! No, that's it. I'm not playing anymore. I'm not playing this game anymore. We're done. We're done. I can't play this anymore. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. I'm ending it there. Painful game. As you would expect with the release of the final game in the series, the detractors and the enthusiasts were having an absolute field day, butting heads more than the world's biggest mosh pit, and in turn helping push the popularity of the game up as they went along. #Omens Sweep was quickly adopted by gamers who were not happy with the final product. In a word, it was blowing up. There was no middle ground here. On one side you had people saying, yeah, it looks great, it sounds pretty damn good too, but it's absolutely horrific to play. And then on the other side, you had hardcore lovers of this game just giving absolute blind admiration for Ouroboros and saying that it's Sonic Team levels of greatness. Look, at the end of the day, this game did come out. So at the absolute least, it did so much more than 99% of other Sonic fan games. And again, you've at least got to give them that. But sadly, this wasn't the end of the controversies, as shortly after the game's release, as in the very next day, a 25-page document going over everything just mentioned, plus a whole lot more, was shared by the Sonic Omens, aka the Sonic Woman's Twitter account, which has now been deleted. Honestly, there's very little to be said about what's in this document. There's quite a lot of filler, and the rest I've already brought up. Well, almost everything. You see, the final stage in the game found you going up against Maria, a 12-year-old young girl from the series who first appeared in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and more recently, Sonic 3 the movie. Now, not only is the boss battle painfully hard to take on, but disturbingly, the words "bad girl" were discovered to be written on the inside of her panties. Look, I don't even know how to tackle this. Maria is quite literally a child. And yes, I've seen all of the defense out there saying it's not a child, it's a video game. But to all of you people out there, I'm sorry if you're fans, I can't argue against this enough. The character is 12. I think maybe 14 at a push. What the hell is even going on here? I'm sure this was something that was supposed to be removed before going public, but the fact that it was there just makes me question this team even more than I already have. Either way, that document really did start to do the rounds. People were talking about it, talking about the game, and people were doing read-throughs of the document, so I'm sure you can go and find a YouTube video out there that did just that. The Omens team, they were putting on a brave face at this point, saying that all publicity is good publicity, and, well, in their defense, the game did eventually become the most popular Sonic fan game of all time on Game Jolt. And, well, the more people that played it, the more people realised just how much of a buggy mess this game was. While sharing tracks that didn't make it into the game on Twitter, Techno Cinema got a response from both Bolt and John Rise, calling him out for his bad time management.
The music is good, but you just didn't want to collaborate with John on the final track for the game. You didn't get in touch with him yourself and didn't want to communicate, so we had to make arrangements. Also, you often didn't meet deadlines.
And yes, for those wondering, John was the guy behind the track that drove dangerously close to Cars 2, a song called Overkill by dubstep outfit Riot, and that final boss theme that was nothing more than inspired by Bury the Light from Devil May Cry 5. Is this plagiarism? Is it inspiration? Is it a coincidence? I'll let you go off and explore yourself and come to your own conclusion. According to Techno Cinema, when I spoke to him, every time he tried to make a song not sound exactly like another song, like Ori and the Blind Forest for instance, eventually that song would be taken over by John and he would do it himself. And whilst we're here on August the 13th, 2022, due to all of the talk of Cars 2, Riot, Ori and the Blind Forest and now Devil May Cry 5 being ripped off, strangely, Cars 2 started trending 11 years after its initial release, as more and more people started to discover Sonic Omens through the mediocre Pixar sequel. This is just so bizarre. And yes, I stand by that. Cars 2 was terrible. The original Cars movie was great, but Cars 2 was absolutely abysmal. A terrible sequel to a great movie. That actually had a pretty damn good video game adaptation with an excellent soundtrack, as I'm sure all of you Sonic Omens fans already know. Anyway, personal opinions aside. In a tweet, one of the creators of the Sonic Infinity engine went to Twitter to point out that even though she and her team were credited in the backers and contributors section of the credits for Sonic Omens, none of them had ever supported Omens in any way. But they did go on to say that they unintentionally collaborated, as assets created by the team were put in the game without their permission. The Infinity Group would then go on to explain that even though none of this is required, as it's a free engine, she states that
giving credit is just common decency, or so we like to think at least.
On top of this, it's quickly discovered that some of the character models in Sonic Omens was taken from another Sonic fan game, and in Sonic Omens' defense, that fan game that created those original assets didn't mind that he wasn't credited or anything like that. However, what I would like to point out is that considering the Sonic Omens team love to take down anybody that talks about the Cars controversy and whatever else, shouldn't it work the other way around too? It is then discovered that a QR code hidden in the game links directly to the Ouroboros Patreon page. So, Ouroboros Studios, remind me, how are you not earning money off the back of the Sonic IP for your studio? The game is shown off in its complete state at the Russian Sonic convention called Super Sonic Con, and is advertised on VK, where the hate wasn't quite as loud as it was over on Twitter. We even get to hear from the original voice actors.
Enjoy Super Sonic Con! Remember kids, don't use Formula 1 race cars to catch hedgehogs.
Due to the success of the game at the Sonic convention, it's celebration time over at the Ouroboros Studios. An ex-employee comes forward that, although didn't work on Sonic Omens, confirms that the studio is extremely toxic, claiming that even the original idea game was also stolen. And then Bolt puts out a Google Doc fighting back against the negative attention that the game is getting. And in short, there's very little in this document that backs up their side of the story. They argue that the Patreon stuff did happen in the early days, but they never linked the two anymore. Even though that QR code was found quite literally 2 days ago, they show a conversation that they had with Sonic's own community manager confirming that the game is okay to go ahead, My guess is that community manager hadn't seen all the evidence found in this video, for instance, back then. They show the money from Game Jolt is surprisingly very low, and as a gesture of goodwill, they will use that money, along with some of their own money, to buy a copy of Sonic Origins or Frontiers and give it away as part of a competition on their own Discord. To this day, no proof of this ever happening has ever come forward. The whole Cars 2 thing was brought up and was essentially brushed under the rug as a happy, or I suppose not so happy, coincidence. The Maria panty texture was also swept under the rug, and in their defense was supposedly based on young girls' underwear that was popular at the time in Ukraine. Again, I don't even know where to begin with this sort of thing, and look, eventually in a future update, it was removed. But not before Sonic Omens reached 50,000 downloads over on Game Jolt. Less than a month later, the website was not re-registered and is now a fake scammy crypto landing page. A few days later, Bolt shares an older level 1 prototype on YouTube, again with Ori and the Blind Forest music. And that update to remove Maria's dodgy knicker text and a few other things is finally released. And one last thing to bring up regarding the whole knicker thing. The original artist that put this in over on ArtStation eventually updated that graphic with haters gonna hate. Look, I want to say everyone's entitled to their own opinion. This is so wrong. This is so wrong. More takedown requests are sent to channels comparing the Cars 2 soundtrack to that of Sonic Omens. Yet another Google Doc shows up from Twitter user Fewer Jester, who is very anti-Sonic Omens. This time the doc goes into more detail, claiming that John Rise is using original Sonic music and remixing it without Sega's permission, and worse still, not crediting the original musicians. I would like to say at this point, allegedly he's doing this. I'm not musically minded enough to be able to look at something like this and see that this is happening. Make up your own mind. We get further proof of the Patreon and Boosty linkage and plenty of other details from members of the team that confirm that yes, all the music was inspired by, at the very least. As we move into 2023, we get another update that allows for us to play as Super Sonic, whilst Bolt has a small rant on Twitter as fans of Sonic fan games continue to bring up the Patreon connection to Omens.
I'm still surprised by people in the comments who think that Sonic Omens is made with Patreon money. People just can't seem to get it into their heads that such a project can be created on pure enthusiasm, love for the project, and the characters.
Bolt celebrates 3 years since the beginning of Sonic 2020. He then celebrates the game page hitting 1 million views. Of course, Fewer Jester is here to point out that 1 million views doesn't equate to 1 million downloads. In fact, the game only had 500,000 downloads, which, let's not kid ourselves, is actually still a pretty damn impressive amount of people to download a Sonic fan game. And there you have it, guys. That is it. That's the complete rundown of the most popular Sonic fan game ever created. Was it worthy of all the hate, or is it just another case of angry Sonic fanboys and girls yelling at a cloud? Let me know what you think. In the end, very little came from all of this, and all of the controversy started to dwindle down to practically nothing. One of the biggest supporters and eventual helpers of the game attempted to sue Farkle regarding his Google document, and here's what Farkle had to say about that.
So, basically, Joe allegedly looked for like an entire year a way to try to sue me because of the document that I released, and from their point of view, I ruined their reputation even though they did it themselves. Nothing ever came from this since then when I called them out for it, because I don't think it is a good idea to try doing that for the reputation of the studio, because like it's really damaging if you're doing this.
But again, nothing ever came from this. Just like the game itself, everything just fizzled out. What an absolute mess. Did Did you know that if you sign up to Slope's Game Room and become a Patreon or a YouTube member, you not only get access to the 2-hour Let's Play of Sonic Omens, which was not fun, but you'll also get access to the Slope's Game Room password zone. And in said password zone, you will see every single video I've released, including several that I've not released, extended versions of videos, and everything else, all without sponsors, ads, and all of that other stuff. As part of the unreleased videos, you will see the Kick Scammer News Show, where I look back at 10 campaigns that were either good or bad from crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and these episodes will never go public. So support the show, get access to all of this good stuff, and get your name shown, get your name shouted out, all of that good stuff. Yes, this is the part of the video where I give a massive shout out to all of my supporters of the show, with an extra big shout out going to the following: Acatino84, Andrew Dalton, Arista, Boots and Pup, Bram Perez, British Video Game Nerd, Chevmatic, Chris aka Brackmang, Conrad Constantine, Action Saxon, Dina81, Deracuda, Ian Quell, Insidious Bliss, Jay is Manchild, Jabba Al Aiden, James, Jeff Mianowski, JM, Joshua Villarreal, hope I'm getting that right, mate. Keiju Samurai 1985, Livestream, much love to you, sorry I missed you out last time. MJJ, Mike Fallon, Mind of the Unsane, Nicholas Bertner, Paul Float, Retro to Next Gen aka Lou, Richard Alderjick, Robert Ramsey, Ryan Burford, Shadow Dragon, Swift Justice Peterson, The Sneaky Ferret, Vitas Varnes, Vike Echo, and Ye Old Hamburglar. I messed up so many there, I really do apologise. Yes guys, thank you so much for your support. Finally able to make videos again and get these videos sorted. In fact, this video right here, this video was half finished, then I had the problems with my YouTube channel, which I'm sure you guys have all seen, and the second half of this video was all in my Discord with all the evidence and the script and stuff, so I couldn't get in there to finish this video, so I've just been sitting on half a completed video not knowing if I will ever get the chance to finish it. Thankfully I've got access back. Thank you once again for all of your guys' support there, and yeah, I hope you liked the video. Got plenty more to come because I went a bit heavy scripting whilst all that rubbish was going down. So expect to see a few more Kick Scammers, a few more complete histories already written. Yeah, look, support the show if you want to check those out early. And until next time, guys, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Seriously, guys, this last month has been manic, but thank you so much. Thanks. Bye-bye.